Hello everybody, I am going to do a quick little test slash show off of my Necromancer right now. I know I've seen a lot of people in the community kind of talking about Necromancers being weak, especially, in kind of my friend group, the Necromancer seems to be a little bit of the weakest, but honestly I feel like I have mine at a pretty good spot right now. It is level 80, I am playing a Bone Spear Necromancer, and honestly I have been enjoying it. I would love to play a summoner build of some kind, but honestly it just seems to be lackluster at the moment. Maybe we'll get some kind of uniques or something that will push it a little bit further and make it a bit more viable. But right now, I am playing Bone Spear, having a good time. You can see I am level 80. I'm going to be doing a tier 40 dungeon, which I believe will put these monsters in like the 90-ish level range. Honestly, nothing too crazy. This should be pretty easy content for this build, but just kind of want to show off and see where I'm going in case you are playing a Necromancer, maybe feeling bit weak right now, just kind of give an idea of what you can expect. I'll go over the build once it's done, but just know we are Necromancer, crit-based build, as most are. Let's try to take a peek. What are these guys? 94. Okay, so they're 14 levels above me. Like I said, that's not really anything too crazy. I have pushed 105 is the highest I've done so far solo. Not based on like trying to push or anything, just based on that's the highest one I've had that I've run. I'm pretty sure I probably could do higher, especially if it was a good dungeon for us. We don't really we don't do too great in dungeons that are full of wraiths. Super annoying monster type for us. Couple reasons. First being, they don't really corpse tendrils that well together, which just allows us to, really focus in our damage on where we want to be hitting. So if enemies don't pull by that ability, then kind of rough. But as you can see right now, we kind of just shred through enemies. I don't know if this boss has a dungeon at the end. The other way around, if this dungeon has a boss at the end. If it does, you'll get a much better idea of our damage. I feel like something that has a bit of a bigger health bar can kind of really show the damage we're doing. A lot of these guys don't have huge health bars, so it could be really hard to get a good idea of what damage we really do actually put out. The mods on this one actually aren't bad at all as far as dungeons go. I do try to avoid resource burn. We can run resource burn. We have very good resource regeneration, but it's still an annoying mod. So really try to avoid it if possible. We can run crit resist, no problem. Our damage is well over what it needs to be. The crit resist does slow us down a little bit, but not really noticeable through trash mobs like this. You're still generally just kind of, one-tapping them. Wow. 2 protection shrines back to back. Not upset about that. I love artillery shrine just because with corpse explosion you can just melt through everything. But the protection shrines are probably just our best because that is our weak spot, is just survivability. Again, at like monster level 94, tier 40 dungeon, survivability is not an issue. Don't get me wrong, I definitely could die, but like, I don't really pay attention doing these dungeons. I kind of just kill things, run through, watch everything die. Once I push up to like 105 at my current level, I have to be a bit more careful. Definitely a lot of death opportunities at that rank, especially depending on mobs. If you get a lot of poison or the corpse explodey bloater dudes, they're really bad for us. Definitely can one-shot us if we kill a couple of them and then don't pay enough attention and end up dashing into the group of things we've just killed. Oh, see, this one's got the some spirits. Let's see if we get the actual wraith monsters, but they're just more resource heavy to kill because you can't stack them on top of other things, so you have to waste a whole bone spear to shoot one of them sometimes. There you go. That group pulled pretty okay. But as you can see, this build is absolutely shredding this content. It is 14 levels above us, and it is, it feels like nothing. When you're doing content that's your level, it's an actual joke. You are pretty much invincible. You can one-shot everything, it feels like. I will say our lack of movement ability sucks. But when we go over gear, we'll kind of talk about, you know, my way around that. I do have a couple friends, none of which are the same level as me. I think my next highest friend's probably in his 70s, and he's a barb. And when we were playing together last time, the first thing he mentioned is, wow, you move around really fast for not having movement ability. So we do, you know, we do get around the map quick enough. Not as quick as I would like, that's for sure. I would love to, you know, zoom around like a rogue. I think rogue's probably the next thing I'll make, just because I do love the playstyle. I was really between rogue, necro, and druid on game launch day on what I was going to pick, and it really came down to the rogue or necro. I played a lot of rogue in the betas, so I decided to go necro. I played necro in the beta too. Just because how could I not play the Blood Mist Corpse Explosion build that existed back then? That was a ton of fun. I'm not even going to pick that up. Black Asylum is a F tier dungeon. I will say there is a tier list for the solo dungeons on Reddit that someone made up, and it's been a huge help. No boss, but you can see we kind of shredded through the entire dungeon with no real thoughts. Really wasn't paying any special attention as we were playing. Just kind of going through. So let's take a quick peek at our gear here and see what we're looking at. So like I said, we're playing Bone Spear, so we're going to be using Deathless Visage until we can get a Shaco, but it's really good. Gives us max essence, which is super important. Gives us crit damage, also important. Obvious crit build, fizz damage, good. We're bone skills, that's fizz damage, and extra armor is just good for survivability. The leaves behind echoes as it travels stat it's leave it, honestly take it or leave it, don't really care about it. It's the stats on the helmet that make this really good. That max essence is hard to replace. The echoes do sometimes clean up spiders, which is nice, so I'll take it, but it's not doing any kind of crazy damage. Our chest piece is one of our really important survivability pieces. You could get some good damage on this, but realistically it needs to be reserved for survivability, so that's what it is right now. Max life, a couple of damage reduction mods, and then my imprint on it is consuming a corpse gives us a chance to spawn a blood orb, which blood orbs do a lot for us in this build. They give us health back, they also can give us barrier, and they also fortify our health. So very important to have blood orbs up. Just a super good mechanic for the necro. Gloves, we have plus ranked 4 to Bone Spear. Again, main damage dealer, almost doubles the amount of skill points you have in it, so that's a huge damage bonus. The lucky hit is big for being able to spam and not have to run a resource generator or basic skill. Strength, again, on there just because, and then crit chance, a perfect roll, 12% crit chance, real nice. These gloves will be hard to replace just because of the perfect crit chance and the 4 Bone Spear and the primary resource, but they are definitely a spot where we can get something better if we find something with those 3 stats and then not strength. This one has a nice 20% increased crit chance whenever we cast Corpse Tendrils, which we're doing all the time, and then 60% crit damage multiplier to enemies damaged by Corpse Tendrils, which is a nice single target buff on bosses. Temerity for the pants. I see a lot of builds are running Temerity, so if you find it, pretty much slap it on. It is another huge survivability piece to the build. You can see, again, you know, extra potion drops, lucky chance to heal, increased healing chance, but the real kicker is the ability on Temerity, which is effects that heal you beyond 100% of your life grant you a barrier up to 52% of your maximum life. So you can see here, potion up to max, potion again, and now we have a 1900 barrier on our health. Again, if I have max health and I pick up blood orbs, it gives me that. So really big, really big. Onto the boots. Penitent Greaves, they're good. Realistically, I care about the 26% movement speed on them, and then the 75% movement speed when I evade for a second. Those just let me move around the map very quickly. The leaving chill behind is nice as well because it is an extra crowd control, and crowd control is another resource generator for us. So a solid pair of boots. I don't know if a really good rare could beat these out, but possibly. For our weapon, I have a item power 783 two-hander sword. Would love to replace this, but I need to roll it with all 4 of the stats and get a higher item level, so it is a hard item to replace. But I do have a perfect aspect that I am waiting for to use on a better sword. But again, crit damage, damage to close enemies, core skill damage. 4 really good things. And again, it has to be a sword. We can't use a scythe. You can see the implicit on the sword is 52.5% crit strike damage. We're a crit build. The scythes just give life on kill, which is cool, but you can't sacrifice nearly 53% crit damage. So sword is a mandatory on the build. Going over to our jewelry, start with the amulet. It's okay. It's nothing special, but it's not bad either. Again, we have a high roll on damage reduction, which is huge because survivability is strong for us. If we don't fall over, we can do more damage, and as you saw, when we can put out damage, we do a lot of it. We have 3 ranks of Death's Reach, which is just damage to distance enemies on our tree, I'm pretty sure. We have cooldown reduction. Again, Corpse Tendrils, more often it is up, the more often we get increased crit chance and crit damage. So, nice to have. Also, just a nice quality of life, pulls enemies together, makes it quicker to farm. And then Essence Cost Reduction, a perfect roll on that. 24% Essence Cost Reduction just allows us to spam our abilities more. And this one is huge. The aspect on here, a pretty low roll, but it is a 50% multiplier to crit damage for bone skills, so huge. Onto the ring. I have 2 rings, imagine that, I got 2 rings, but 1 ancestral, 1 sacred. This one is decent with crit damage, damage to distant enemies, crit chance, and damage to slowed enemies. 4 things that are pretty relevant, and then we have a 2 roll on the primary resource. When you crowd control an enemy, which we're always doing, we do that just by walking with our boots, so a good generator for us. I've found this aspect twice. Once as a 1 roll, once as a 2 roll, so the 1 roll, when I had a 1 roll, I wasn't using it. I was actually using something that made it when I was at full life. When I picked up Blood Orbs, it gave me back Essence, which felt very good. But as a 2 roll, this feels significant. So, definitely worth using. On to my next ring. This one is Sacred. My biggest issue with this one is the aspect. I've only ever found once, and I imprinted it onto this ring. I have plenty of rings that are ancestral that I would love to upgrade this with, but I cannot right now just because I can't rip that aspect. And this one is the reason we can spam Bone Spear as much as we can. Up to a 10% chance to generate 34 Essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy. Our enemies are always vulnerable, and Bone Spear hits a lot of enemies. I don't know if you noticed, but it pierces everything, and then it shoots out like 3 to 5 projectiles that return, and it's all hitting vulnerable enemies, so it can just fill up your bar from empty to completely full when you hit a big pack. So it is a huge aspect, and really it is the engine that allows us to spam. So that's all of our abilities. I feel very strong right now. Again, a couple other things. Book of the Dead, Sacrifice, Skirmishers, Cold, Iron, just all good things. Crit strike chance, hard to beat. Increased damage to vulnerable enemies, hard to beat. And this one is 30% crit strike damage, hard to beat. So really strong there. Go over some stats here. You really do want to get as high of a crit chance as you can. You can see right now we have a ridiculous 50% critical strike chance. So we're just always critting out here. A lot of crit damage. Base is 362%. I have a 6-7% multiplier on core skills, 163% multiplier on bone skills. We're just doing all kinds of crit damage. Good vulnerable damage, so that's why we can pump out those damage numbers like that. Like, we can kill any boss, even like a 105 boss, I can kill it in like 4 to 5 bone spears. It just shreds. So, there's something to look forward to on Necro. If you are feeling weak right now, once you get the build put together, it really does get powerful. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you have any thoughts on Necro or really any of the classes, feel free to leave it down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.